This is McAllen, Texas,
just 5 minutes away from Mexico. And after years of living in the RGV, here are the pros and cons of life at the border.
but first, let's see what the people have to say.
It's cheaper than cities up north, you know, like Houston or even California, you know, those.
Bro, so do you think somebody can live comfortably off of minimum wage down here?
No, you cannot. Like, you have to have roommates at the very least. You know, if you're gonna be renting, like, or if you own, even the property taxes are gonna be too much for that.
The cost of living has gone up, everywhere. But definitely here, it's a lot more affordable.
I think most people will agree that one of the pros of living here is actually the cost of living. Even though inflation is catching up with us here in the valley, McAllen and Brownsville still rank in the top 10 cities most affordable to live in America. And that is not just us or the news making it up, the locals here also agree with us.
So what do you think about the cost of living down here?
I think it's pretty cheap compared to like Dallas when we lived there for a little while.
It's pretty cheap. It's pretty cheap. It's manageable, you know. It's getting a little bit higher lately, but so far it's still manageable.
You're kind of like feeling inflation a little bit, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Barato. Todos los salarios deberían de aumentarlos más.
Ironically enough though, and even though McAllen and Brownsville might be ranked as one of the cheapest cities to live in America, one of the costs of living here is the salary. Not only do we still have the federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour, but we also have one of the poorest cities in America, which is Far, Texas, where unfortunately the average household income is only $32,000 a year. And statistics show that the average occupancy of a house in Far is 3.64 people. So if you do the math, you realize that on paper, in Far, people make less than minimum wage.
Do you think somebody could live off of minimum wage comfortably down here?
It's not comfortable to live in that wage.
I don't think that can be possible anywhere. No, not right now.
No, vas a vivir muy limitado, muy limitadamente. O sea, aquí para vivir más o menos bien tienes que 10, 12, 15 mínimo, sí. O sea, una renta de $1,000 no la vas a hacer.
Now, a common assumption that people might make is since we live close to the poor city of America and we live close to the border where on the other side, gangs might be at war the whole time, we must have high crime rates. But we don't. I can proudly say that the valley is pretty safe to live in, with McAllen actually ranking in multiple lists as one of the safest cities to live in, not just in Texas, but in America.
So when you used to live in Miami, what were your expectations of the valley before living here?
Good question. Dude, I was a kid, so I had no expectations, but I used to hear my mom just say the whole time that she thought it was gonna be like the cartels were riding around with ARs and it was just a war going in the border, but dude, it's really safe out here.
Yeah, man, yeah, it really is.
How safe, on a scale from 1 to 10, how safe do you feel living here in the valley?
Safe about what?
Crime rate?
9.
Actually feel super safe because I have lived really close to the border. We're talking about 5 minutes away from there. So
Living here in the valley, I would say it's pretty safe. There's areas, where you don't want to go either.
How
but
safe do you feel in the valley?
Well, I mean, I grew up here. Being a native from the valley, I feel solid 8.
Now, it is great to live in a safe city, but it raises a question. How is education in the 956 in the valley? You might be shocked to hear this, but education is actually one of the cons of living here. McAllen, Edinburgh, Brownsville, and Mission, all 4 take up a spot in the list of the top 10 most uneducated cities in America. Don't get me wrong, this doesn't mean that you cannot get an education here. It means that people are choosing not to.
Do you plan on going to college?
No.
¿Usted fue a la universidad?
No, yo terminé la preparatoria nada más.
Now, I think that has to do with the fact that salaries here are so low that even though if you actually get an education and you get a degree, you'll probably still be better off by doing construction or going up north to work on the rigs or something.
That's probably what everybody did back in high school, they just left.
Have you ever considered moving up north for like more career opportunities or anything?
Yes, for sure. Especially in my line of work, it doesn't pay that bad here, but not as well as it could. So up north, I hear that like first responders get paid a lot better.
Now, everybody's situation is different, and that's just my opinion. But as a student myself, I can say that compared to other cities, education here is actually fairly affordable.
Yeah, it is. And actually, ironically enough, education is also a pro of living here. Even though we're in the top 10 least educated cities of America, we're also in the top 10 most affordable colleges of America, with UTRGV from Edinburgh being number 1 in the list, UTRGV from Brownsville being number 3 on the list, and STC from McAllen being number 5. So why are people not getting a degree? I mean, I was a student too. I was broke. I was working at Burger King and doing deliveries, and I was still going to school. I did apply for every single scholarship and grant there was, but come on, Valley, we could do this.
Do you think getting a degree is worth it down here?
Depends on where you're going, on what it is that you're going to be doing.
Yo digo que sí, sí vale la pena porque pues con eso tienes, ese es algo que te van a pedir con el tiempo y aparte la experiencia que tengas pues es lo que te va a ayudar.
Now back at it again with the bad news now. I feel like the whole valley is gonna hate me after this video.
I hate you already.
But another con of living here is actually the unhealthy lifestyle. Now explain this to me. How is it that we have one of the poorest cities in America, and yet right next to it, we have one of the cities that invests the most money on fast food, with McAllen being one of the top 10 cities with fast food access in the nation? And it is also McAllen, the number 1, the one and only, the pinnacle, the capital, if you will, city with the most overweight and obesity rates in the nation.
Oh, that's tough. That's tough.
Do you think obesity is a problem that you see here every day?
Yes, especially with like all the food that we've like had grease with and stuff.
This really makes no sense at all. So it just really goes to show that as a community, we have a lot of work to do to teach the younger ones how to make better choices.
I agree, but where others might see a con, I'm talking to you, Max, I actually see a pro. Because the RGV has a great variety of not just culture, but also gastronomy.
True.
Maybe because we're 5 minutes away from Mexico, but the food here is top notch.
That's right.
And as someone who comes from a completely different culture, dude, I can say that Mexican culture is beautiful. And even though we're not in Mexico, I feel like the culture lives on. The food is everywhere, celebrations everywhere, the community is very united here in the Valley.
Yeah.
And that is actually another pro. If you're looking for a community and a place that always has your back, I think the Valley's it.
Yeah, honestly.
So I'd say that sense of community, it's pretty strong. Like it's got its identity, you know, people help each other out a lot. Like I said, like these people just up and my car broke down, they just helped me out for no reason, just because, you know, things like that. People are less jaded, less indifferent towards others.
More like, yeah, you gotta experience like other cultures as well.
Yeah. People are really united here.
Now, I agree, and I do see it, you know, and it is great that we have a great sense of community here. Because one of the cons of living here is actually the lack of things to do.
That's true. I can't go against you in there. That's true.
So there's something like a little bit of a stigma that we have down here in the Valley. There's nothing to do, it's kind of boring.
Oh,
Would you agree that there's a ton of things to do down here?
No,
No tanto?
no tanto, pero está bien, es tranquilo.
No.
I mean, you can only have so many dates at main event and at the movies, and then you run out.
That's true. That's 100% true.
So essentially, if you're looking for a city that has a lot of entertainment, a lot of nightlife, and a lot of things to do throughout the day, this might not be it.
So what do you personally do for fun?
For fun, well, I mean, obviously, I will go to the beach someday.
You know, just chill, there's pretty much nothing to do here, so just kick it back, relax.
Aquí me gusta mucho ir al cine, a la playa.
What I do for fun, hunting, that's it, just hunting.
However, how Frank said, we do have a great sense of a community. So that means that any place that you go to, you're gonna feel welcome, and they're gonna make you feel like at home.
That's how I feel, and I'm not from here. And it is true that the Valley might get boring in terms of things to do, which we actually have a video coming up of the top things to do in the Valley, so don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out. But we have to keep in mind that the whole Hidalgo County is a constant growing and expanding economy.
True.
So that is actually one of the pros of living here. I mean, everybody knows it, the early bird gets the worm. So this is actually a great place to come now and live and invest here for the future. When I came here 10 years ago, the Valley was nowhere near where it is today. So I can only imagine what it's going to be 10 years from now.
Have you seen any economic growth in the last month, 2 months?
Yeah.
Invest, I think it's a pretty good investment, especially if you want to be living here and experiencing like all these many cultures that we have here.
Now, Frank, I hate to do this to you, man. So while we do have that expanding economy, we do have to tell the audience and be honest about this. There's not a ton of opportunities for career growth here.
That's true.
At least not yet, because our region's not there yet. I mean, we only have 4 big buildings here, you know, tall buildings, and 2 of which are banks.
Do you think there's enough or good career opportunities down here?
No, there's not many good career opportunities. The best thing you can do here is commerce, you know. There's goods coming and going out, so I think that's the best thing you can do. Try to sell, be a seller.
And that is actually my last con of living here, is that the fact that if you want a big corporate job, a great position, you might need to move up north to find that. We try to remain as unbiased and neutral so we can be as objective and honest about living here in the Valley.
Now, before we go, Max, I want to ask you this question, since you were
Go
the
for it.
con guy here, right? The bad news guy. If you had the opportunity,
Okay?
would you move to any other city or remain here in the Valley?
You know what, Frank? The Valley has a great spot in my heart, so I'll stay here.
Let's go.
Guys,